Hi, there is a universal equation in accounting that is used in every business transaction, and it is depicted by three letters. The letters are A, L, E. A, L, E. Now, when you refer to ALE or Ale in the Philippines, it usually refers to a lady, or it also reminds you of another drink, ginger ale. Now for our purposes in accounting, ALE stands for assets, liabilities, and equity. So assets, liabilities, and equity. These practically are the source of all business transaction in the whole industry, or in every industry in the whole world. So regardless of what industry, it affects that equation. That's why it's called universal equation of accounting, or the accounting equation. For example, you buy groceries in the supermarket. Now when you buy groceries, there's an exchange of values. So you're giving away cash for the goods that you receive. On the other hand, the supermarket receives cash, so it increases their asset in the form of cash, but it also decreases their asset in the form of the goods that they give away. So there's an exchange of values. Another example would be, let's say if you invest in a business for, let's say, for 100,000. So you put in 100,000 in the business. So what happens is that your cash increases, the business in your cash increases by 100,000, but it also increases your equity by 100,000. That's why an increase in your cash in the form of, or an increase in your asset in the form of cash would also increase in your equity in the form of the investment that you made. So as you see, it is equal. This universal equation should always be maintained as equal. Now let's say, for example, that 100,000 is not enough to run a business. So let's say, and you have no other source but to lend from somewhere else. Let's say you lend, or to borrow from somewhere else. Let's say you borrow from a bank. Now the bank, let's say, lent you 50,000 for that. So your cash also increases. So it increases. So therefore your asset is also increases by 50,000 in the form of the proceeds that you receive from the bank. As you know, the real definition of assets is not just what you own, but also what you owe. That's why assets is equal to liabilities plus equity, because if you already have control over that asset that the bank has given you, then that is already your asset. However, that would also increase your liabilities by 50,000. So you see, the equality is still being maintained. So if you add this one, this would be 150, the 100,000 cash, what you own, and this is what you owe. So it's total of 150,000. So this one, your liability is 50,000 and your equity is 100,000. So the equality is maintained. So in every business transaction. So these are just a simple example of one. Now, how about in this global pandemic? Does this ALE also applies? Of course. Now, let's say, for example, even if the supply chain is at a halt at this time of recession, the ALE still is affected. Every business ALE is affected. For example, let's say a restaurant stop operating because of the lockdown, but that does not mean that they're not paying the rent. They're still incurring liabilities in the form of rent. Now they might not pay it right now, but they have incurred it at this month. They may pay it next month, but they are incurring it this month. So their liability also increases. So it affects their liability, and their assets also decreases because they will pay out cash in the future. So regardless of whether it is business as usual or business not necessarily as usual, this ALE is affected. Now in the supply chain, of course, a lot of industries are affected by it. Now, to give an example, it's a restaurant. Now, if a restaurant does not operate, then some of its supply chain, let's say for example, the makers of ice, if you have let's say an ice company, that supplies ice, it's also somehow affected. So the whole, practically the supply chain, the whole supply chain is affected. Now we're going to talk about those businesses, the supply chain, and the businesses affected by the global pandemic in the future sessions, and as well as what are the feasible ideas for a venture in this time of global pandemic. So that would be discussed, the solutions for that, and the ideas that we may have in the future sessions. But for now, if you have any comments, you can write it down and subscribe. And for now, stay safe and God bless.